welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton here at fmtrain.tv, and my cohort in crime, at least for today, this is Michael. Say hi, Michael. Michael.
Hey, everyone.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by fmtraining.tv, where if you go to fmtrain.tv and you press the button, you get this website right here, which is actually data-driven by FileMaker. It's kind of funny. Today is beginner day. Beginner, lookups for beginners. What are lookups? So Hugh asked me, he said, hey, I don't understand lookups and why you use them and what's so great about them. And so a lot of you love Nick, and it's great that you love Nick, and he's great, but sometimes we have to go back and cover the basics because you've got everyone's got little silos of knowledge, right? And some of your knowledge, if you watch Nick a lot, you have some very senior level knowledge, and then there's some basics along the way that you haven't mastered, right? And so very, very important that we go back and cover that. So we will be kind of an open Q&A today on this topic loosely, right? So tomorrow, we got Monkey Spread with Monkey Bread, right? Christian Schmidt will be here for 2 days talking about the awesome stuff you can do with Windows and the Monkey Bread plugin. I think it also works on Mac too, if I had to guess, but he didn't. Margaret, do you know if this image import stuff, we're focusing on Windows because we did some Mac only stuff and we felt bad for the Windows people, right? Today is a basic day. It's not advanced day. So I really want you to ask basic questions. I will not call a foul if the question is basic. If it's an advanced question, we might save it or shelve it for another day. But it's a basic data handling today. And then we got Calvin on Friday coming up. So this is the upcoming broadcast schedule. So if you go to fmtrain.tv, you get the live button. Of course, you see all the great courses that we continue to update. We highly, highly recommend if you want to support the channel. I'm not going to ask for, give me some free money on Patreon. It's like, hey, Ken, can you send me a little cash? So Ken, palms a quick $100 and gives it to me. No, I'm not asking for that. I am asking for the $100, but what I am going to do is I'm going to trade it for services and product, right? And so I am going to ask for 2 or 3 bills, but what I'm going to do is you're going to get tons of training and you're going to get value for that plus an hour of free coaching. So if you have one of the bundles here, I highly recommend the complete bundle. It's worth it. If you want a 2-year deal for an extra $50, email us at support@RC Consulting. Press the like button and press the homepage button and press the button that tells everyone that you love us and tell your neighbor's best friend's dog's girlfriend that you love FMTrain.tv. And the FileMaker platform is great. So up front, let me start off by bringing up this page right here. This kind of was one of the pages I kind of found out of the blue. I'm going to zoom in on it. Let's talk about today's bit of text here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on this. So the issues that a lot of people have in understanding FileMaker is this fundamental idea of moving data from one place to another. It's like a fundamental of FileMaker. It's like people see FileMaker, they see layouts, they want to build a layout that does what they want it to do. It's like our first, when we talk about the basics of the FileMaker world, and we haven't looked at this in a while, but it's super relevant. You have the business owners, and typically these will be the people who just want what they want, and they want someone to build it for them. The business owner might also be a person that's coupled here together, right? So like Scott Kane, I'm going to pick on him. He's a business owner and probably an intermediate to advanced developer somewhere. And so today we're talking about kind of power users and these people in here, maybe in here a little bit, or maybe you're a very senior person and you miss this knowledge. So the idea is how do we move data from one place to another? Of course you could import the data into an area. When you do an export, very important, this is also kind of on the certification test as a bogus dragon question, but you cannot forcibly export data out of FileMaker and force it in somewhere else, right? It's like if I say I'm going to force feed you, that doesn't exist in the world of FileMaker. You can export out of one area, then willingly run an import process, whether it's scripted or it's manually done, to bring the data in. So you cannot forcibly force an export that goes into another FileMaker system, okay? You might say that in writing, you might describe that when you're talking to your friends. So I want to export it out of here into this other thing. But the reality is from a technical standpoint, you have to have the data, a block of data that you're going to import into FileMaker. You're going to import it over as part of an import command. The certification test will try to trick you and say, hey, if you want to move the data from file A to file B, you want to export it into the other from file A to file B. And that's all they say. They don't say anything about import. Export only drops it out of FileMaker into some sort of text file somehow, right? So we have the import option of moving data back and forth. Import is fine. In the old days, back 30 years ago, it was more important than it is today. Today, with variables and some pretty advanced scripting, you can do a lot of data movement. So the other way of moving data is kind of this idea with relationships and or lookup fields. So you could also move data with a copy paste in a script or some equivalent thereof in a script. We're not even talking about that. If you want to ask a question about that's fine. But the idea is the idea of a lookup, because this lookup the lookup uses a relationship. So at the end of the day, what we're talking about is if I go to File and I go to Manage Database, so File, Manage Database, I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut. I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut going forward, okay? It's right here, and you can go into an area over here where you want to auto enter data. So you double click on a field. Once again, this is everything that's on this right, all these items right here, you need to have memorized. That'll be on the test. All the auto enter ones and all the validation ones. Both of these are like super on the test, and then obviously this too, although I don't think repetition's on the test. And then figurana is a Japanese or something, whatever that's about. So that's not even remotely referenced on the test, at least on the American test. So auto enter. So Nick always talks about auto enter with calculations, this, that, and the other thing. You can use an auto enter. So calculation, you can auto enter some sort of value. You can also enter through a lookup. And a lookup, when it uses, when you fire a lookup, it's going to use an existing relationship that has already been laid. And so in this solution right now, there are no relationships right now at all. And so what I'm going to do initially with this solution, because it's really useful in this demo, is in short, you can see file data on one layout that belongs to another layout, and it's brought through via relationship. It doesn't live in the other file. And once again, this is really basic stuff, but I think it's kind of important. So let's just cover the base. I'm going to move Michael out of the way for the moment. We love Michael, but we're just going to, for the moment, give him a rest. So we have a single file right here. It's called a lookup demo. There's 3 tables in it. Okay, I'm going to do the field short. Oops, wrong button. I'm going to be in here. Our tables, 3 tables: invoices, line items, products. Once again, this is not about billing invoices and CRMs. If you want to do that, just download Starting Point and then get a coach, and you'll get it done really quick. And then you'll learn a lot along the way. This is to demonstrate the differences in these techniques. So we're on this layout right here. I'm going to pop another new window. When you pop a window, it copies the window in the context. Another test question on the certification test. And I'm going to say line items. So these are 2 different tables. There are no relationships right now. If I put Richard Carlton over here, right? Something like that. And then, and I create a new record over here. There's no linkage between these 2 right now, right? So the line items, if you know what invoices, basic invoicing, but you have an invoice, it's a piece of paper, and then you have the items down the page that you purchased, or you get an estimate or a quote for, whatever you want to do, but it's a document, and then there's these lines in the middle where you can have, and if you have a lot of them, it'll go to page 2 and page 3, things like that. So so you have an invoice, which is a record. The line items, each of those individually is a record, historically how that works. So here's the deal with this. They're not connected at all, so let's connect them. So File, Manage, Database. Once again, in the future, I'm going to use my left hand. Right-handed people, you should be driving your mouse with your right hand. Left-handed, right-handed people, right hand, and then your left hand, it doesn't sit there and drink coffee. It's busily doing, you're contorting you're getting your muscle, your hand to work out to do keyboard shortcuts, right? And you have to learn what these are to speed your progress. So Command, Shift, Command or Control, if you're on Windows, Shift D. So it's very similar. I'm going to give you the Mac one, but if I say Command, that's equivalent on Windows of Control, okay? So I'm in here. I'm going to say define relationships. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in since I want to make sure this is nice and clear. So we don't have any relationships between the 2, which means the data cannot flow between the 2. If it says primary lobster, just disregard that. That's Ellen the lobster. It's all her fault because we screwed this computer up. And now when you create a new table, it creates an automatic field called primary lobster. Just disregard that entirely. So we have an invoices over here. The invoice, every invoice as you create it, let me see if I can move down a little bit here. Every invoice as you create it has a number. So I can't really, let me see if I can escape out. If I create a new record here, it's creating a serial number down here. So we got Sally, we got Richard, we got Ken, the hot air balloon Ken, although that one was created without the ID, so I'm going to delete it. So now we got 1, we got 2. I'm going to create a new record. There's hot air balloon Ken. I got Carol from YouTube. Cool. All right. So, if we have questions, I always confuse lookup. Lookups acts like delete related records. No, right? I don't think. Let me go through this demo, and then we will do questions. Let me just get the basics of this demo going. So first, let me establish a relationship. Lookups and related data, I guess I could call it that way, both use the relational connection. So to do the relational connection, Command Control Shift D with your left hand. Right, I'm going to do that real quick. Boop. I'm back to my screen. Once you're in here, you have the three, basically a button bar at the top. We want to look at relationships. I'm going to zoom in. We're going to connect ID invoice because every line item will belong to one invoice, so it knows that. And what you're going to do is connect across here to ID invoice foreign key. So this is a primary key. It auto enters. This is just a text field over here. That's why you have the little connector right here. This is another certification test question. You understand that what that connector there means versus that one there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to hit OK. And so now I have a connection between these two. We haven't done anything with the connection. We just built the connection. So if we go to layout mode over here, what I want to do is I'm on the invoice, and so let's just build a very ugly kind of invoice. I'm going to go to layout mode, Command or Control L, right? Command or Control L, Command or Control B on the keyboard, Command or Control L. Okay. I'm going to grab the portal tool. It's a little tool up here that has the lines on them right here. Okay, click it, and then you're going to drag a portal. So this is going to be the line item. So the idea is we're building this so that if you were to print this layout, it would print kind of the way it looks here, right? So this is very basic beginner stuff. It says, well, through this portal to this so we're on the invoices and we have a portal and we can look through the portal to another file. We want to identify line items. This is now here because we built the relationship. It wasn't here before. So it's going to use that relationship, okay? And it has some other settings here. We're going to leave these alone. It's going to default to 7. It's going to, based upon the size, it thinks we can show 7 pretty easily. And it says, what kind of fields would you like to show? Well, from the other side, I would like to show, because I define these fields, the name of the line item, the quantity that's on the line item, probably the cost of the item, if I can do that, the price of the item, and the extended price. Those are all essential elements that you would have. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, let me see, if I create a label here. Oh, that was dumb. All right. I don't know how I managed to not create the labels here. That was stupid. Okay, whatever. So this is the name of the item, right? So we'll do that. Then I'm going to hold down the Option key and move it. So that was the Option key on the Mac. I don't know if the Alt key. You guys know what that is off the top of your head? So I'm going to do Q-U-A-N, quantity real quick, option drag, cost, option drag. I would call this the price. So this is what, the cost is your cost, the price is what you're going to charge on a per unit basis. And then the extended price is what the person's going to pay for that line item, right? And in your business, you could call it something else if you want, but this is kind of the generic business kind of thing right here. And I'm not worried about alignment or any of that kind of stuff at the moment. I will put these as currency though in US dollars for the time being. So I can come over here. I go to this button here, which is I think it's the data tab on the data pane. No, the data panel on the right pane. So this is the right pane. This is the left pane, right pane, left pane. There are 3 panels here, 4 panels here. It's the data panel. So that's the terminology. So in general, I want currency. I don't need, well, fixed currency is fine. Do not display if it's 0. There's some other settings in here, kind of hard to see. Decimal, use thousand separator. If you're in Europe, the decimal is normally like a comma, right? I guess. And then we have dollars over here because it's guessing that we're in the United States. Because this copy, they know we're generically we know where we're at. So this is our item right here. If I click over here, it's not allowing me to create a related record over here. So at the moment, if I wanted to create a new line item over here, I could create a new record and I could put in the invoice number right here. So it's invoice number 4. And now suddenly you have a related record. You're like, okay, so now this record is connected because that 4 right there matches that 4, which happens to be the same up here, right? We got this. So this is essential basic stuff. It's very, very, very important. If I double click the relationship here and I say allow creation of related records, and I hit OK, and then I come down here and say OK, and I go back out. Now, if I go in here and I put name, it's a widget, and I want 2, and it's 5, and it's 8, right? So there's your line item. Notice it's populating data over here, and it's ready to add the next record for me automatically. If I look over here, this is a blank record. I'm going to go and delete it. It doesn't do anything. I have one record in here in use. It's 1. If I click over, if I zoom in a little bit here, and I click in here, and I haven't done anything yet, but I click in here and I type, it's a Ken Tooley, I'm spelling your name wrong, Ken. I do apologize for that. You just have to forgive me. It's a balloon ride, okay? It's quantity 1. Notice it created the second record here automatically for me. It's already auto-populating the data. So with a relationship, this is an essential, critical understanding, is that the data is live. The data on this line items lives here. It lives in this table down here. The data that's up here lives up here. How do you know where the data lives? If you go to layout mode, you see the little dots, the 2 little dots in front of the field. It means the data is related and it doesn't belong to this layout. The layout belongs to this table. So here we go. So it's very, very important. So we built a table called invoices. A layout can only belong to one table. So it's right there in layout mode. So these fields here, if there's data in them, belong to that table. Okay. And the 2 dots here mean that they belong somewhere else. Somewhere else. And in this case, they belong to the line items. So I keep saying, get a good price for the ride. Yeah, Kid says, yeah, good price for the ride. David N says, I always confuse lookups act like delete related records if you're in a different table. Saying, okay, so we'll talk about, we're gonna build the lookup. So here's the deal. Here is the essential killer part of lookups. So Ken is there. Ken is already the hot air balloon guy. Hey, Michael Kerwin, welcome. Carlton, Irish name. Look up your ancestors. Yeah. All I know from Michael Kerwin on YouTube is that a great grandmother from family friends. We were visiting her, or my father was visiting her, and she was on her way out. She's like 95 years old and great. So she was back in 1700, 1800 at the time, way back. And they said, oh, the Carltons are here to visit you. And the lady goes, the cattle rustlers are back. So apparently the Carltons, I used to be a cattle rustler, which means we pull guns and we take your horses and your cows and stuff. So I didn't know that I had such a criminal background, but apparently I have a rep in the Western in the old days. Margaret, you did not know that was about yourself, did you?
No.
Okay, so a quantity, so one balloon ride, and what's the cost of a balloon ride right now, Ken? If you give someone let's say a 60-minute ride, that's probably a really short ride, but 60-minute ride for you, $100. So this person's going to okay, Ken's cost is say $65 because hot air is very expensive. And so we're going to charge $100. Okay, so it's 1, but 2 people are going to get in the hot air balloons. They're just going to pay $100. So there we go. So here's the problem. So say I'm going to print this invoice out for Carol. So Carol's going to take a balloon ride. She goes to him, takes a balloon ride. He prints this out, gives her a copy of the invoice. Okay. And then in 6 months, with inflation stuff, what it is, the balloon ride is going to go up in cost, okay? it's not really a problem, okay? Because he would create a new invoice for someone else, right? But we don't have a complete solution yet. So what we're going to do is we've got part of the solution right here. It seems to be working okay. We have the line items down here. They seem to be working okay. What we need to do is pop a new window, and I'm going to have it look at products. So we haven't talked about products yet. So there's 3 tables, 3 layouts in this solution. What I want to do is that every time I come in here, though, I don't want to have to fill out, it's a Ken Tooley special balloon. It's a giant pain in my ass, okay? So what I want to do is just have it pop up and show me that stuff and populate it automatically. Because if I come over here, I can create a new product, and I'll just call it P1 for now. It's auto creating, but I'll call it P1. In fact, what I'll do is in products, I'll go to fields, products, and I say going forward, it will start with a P, and then it'll increment by 1, so that means it's a product 1. Kind of cool that we can do that. Okay, our product name is Ken Tooley 60-minute balloon ride. So this is all real stuff, Okay, product description, we don't really use it. Flying high with Ken. Okay, great. Cost, Ken is $65. Price that we have currently is $100. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this record, Command D, Command Shift Controller, Command D. I got P2. Say Ken offers 190. Let's say it's a 90-minute balloon ride. If people get a little bit of a deal, it's $145. The cost for Ken is, say, $85, something like that. Okay, so we have 2 products in here. If I want to view them as a table, I can view them like that. So table, list view, that's another separate conversation. But we have kind of this lookup over here. I'm going to make, not a lookup, but it's a table view. It's basically FileMaker trying to pretend they're a spreadsheet, which is really stupid. We normally never use this, but I use it for triaging and chasing down. So it's displaying the data. Either here we can display it and flip the records, or I can try to make it kind of a list view, make it tighter. So all we're doing is looking at the same data different ways, right? So I can see a list view. So there's that record. So I see it like that, kind of a fat list view, or we got the table view over here, okay? So I kind of like this for the moment. We'll just go with that. So what we want to do is look it up automatically. I'm going to go to invoice. I'm going to go to field relationships, right? So because they're all 3 tables are in one file, which makes it really easy to manage. File, manage database. I'm going to come back over here, go to relationships. So we have invoices to line items. That makes sense. But the products need to fill in the line items automatically for us because I don't want to have to do it every time. So what we realize over here is that we have to connect these two. A line item in the invoice will have a product in it. So we need to have an ID product key in here. So if I zoom in a little bit, we see ID invoice underscore foreign, the ID line item. So this is the one that's the serial number. This is the one that we borrow for connecting the invoice, right? So I'm missing a field over here. I've got this one right here, but I need a way of putting the ID product in here, which is what will drive everything. So I'm going to go to fields. I'm going to make sure I'm on invoice line items. I'm going to say I want a field called ID. Now, this name could be junk. It doesn't matter what the name is in case anyone asks a question. I'm using this name because it's very easy for most developers to understand. It's ID product underscore. Sometimes people will put a P under there for primary key or an F. I do this option F, which makes it kind of curly, which means it's kind of weird and special. There's this kind of weird F, kind of like function. It's a text field. It doesn't have an auto enter in it, right? Like up here, you notice up here, we're in invoice line items. There's a serial number here. It's an auto enter by serial number. But this is a foreign key right here. Once again, that's a little bit different conversation about primary keys and foreign keys, things like that. So I go back over here. I can connect ID product, zoom back in, ID product. I can connect to ID product right here. And notice, once again, the little thing. So this over here means it's an original or a primary serial number key. There's one over here. And it means that there's going to be many over here because it's not a serial number on this side right here, right? Makes sense. So we're kind of getting close to actually having a functional solution. So going forward, Carol's got her hot air balloon ride. We're going to create a new balloon ride. This is going to be for Michelle. Yeah, so here's invoice 5. but I don't want to fill it out because I'm a sophisticated FileMaker developer. I'm being paid as a developer. I want to be a professional. When I built my very first solution in 1990, this is the shit I did. Okay, this is where everyone starts off doing basic stuff for some sort of business, some sort of business task. I'm doing invoice and line items because it's going to paint the picture of the lookup here really carefully, real quick. So once again, shortcut, we got our relationship set up. We don't need any more relationships. What I need to do is have it populate automatically over here. So what I can do is I can go to layout mode on invoice. And this is kind of, we're going to get in a lookup table. I think we jumped into this the other day. So I'm going to click on, I have a problem. I need to have, hang on a second. What I need to do is make this bigger, like this a little bit. It's a little bit like this. I guess everything moved that way with it. That's fine. What I want to do is move everything down a smidge. And what I want to do is I'm going to put the SKU, the product SKU in here, because it's really important that we know that we're taking a hot air balloon ride and it's SKU, whatever the product SKU is, right? P1, P2, whatever it is. We're taking a balloon ride. We call it balloon 1 or balloon 2. It doesn't matter. On the back of cans, products, let me see, jump over here. So most products have a SKU that looks something like this. That's a unique number that's for this can of compressed air. That's supposed to scare my cat so it stays away from me while I'm on the TV show. I'm such a mean person. But yes, every product has that on it somewhere. Every commoditized product. If it's a one-off, it won't have it. But if it's a commoditized product like a can of Coke or a piece of furniture or an automobile, they'll all have that. So what I'm going to do is I want to put the ID product on here. I'm going to option drag. I'm holding my left key down, option drag over. What field would you like to see? Okay. All right. So we're looking at line items. Okay. And so once again, the line item is kind of a snapshot of us using that product for that customer, right? For this person on this invoice. So here's the ID product. Okay. I'm going to move the field label up here. Okay. There it is. That would be, or better yet, this would also be AKA. This would also be, AKA the SKU, and it's wrapping there. So let me make it a little bit bigger, and that needs to be arrange, format, style, condense. Make it a little smaller so we can actually read it. Wow, it is still small. Damn. All right, so I'm going to use another keyboard shortcut, Command, Option, Shift, and then I'm going to use the greater than and less than to resize. That's a really hideous finger gymnastics moment there. Okay, so as opposed to me going up here and resizing it with that, I just did it till it fit. Okay, so back to browse mode. So if I come back over here when we created the previous invoice, hang on. Oh, they're underneath each other. Okay, hang on. Make the SKU really small here. I'm going to put the product name really big. There we go. All right, so we'll go back in time. There's Ken, Sally, Richard. So where was the balloon ride? We had Carol's balloon ride, right? Now notice that we didn't have an ID product at the time because we really didn't have that field set up. And so we want to use this relationship. So as we go to the next, for Michelle, I want to be able to click in here and get a pop-up list, right? And that's the next trick. So I'm going to go to layout mode, take care of this. A lot of you have seen this before. You're very bored by this. I'm going to cough real quick and then unmute myself. All right, so I click on layout mode. I'm in the right pane, the data panel right here at the top. And instead of an edit box, I want to have a pop-up menu. I'm just going to keep it simple for now. We don't have any pop-up menus defined. This file was brand new. I created it an hour ago, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to say the little pencil button right here. I'm going to create a new one, okay? And it says, hey, would you like to create a new value list? And I'm like, yes, I would like to create that value list. And I say, create a new one, okay? And what I want it to do is I want it to use values that are already in the system. I could say P1, P2. I could do that, but I want it to do it automatically, get me automatic values. So what I'm going to say, get me all the values from the products database. And really what I want to do is I want to see the ID product, okay? And while we're at it, go ahead and show me the name of the product while we're at it, okay? And so I'm going to keep, there's a lot of little buttons and things we can push in here. I'm trying to keep this very simple for the moment, okay? So if I go, so I click that, it's showing me the list of all, it's showing me these records here. So if I create a new record right here, P3, I could call it Ken's, okay, Ken gives you a hot massage and a 60-minute flight. Okay, that's going to get really expensive because Ken is a professional masseuse. So the cost of that will be probably about the same because he has to spend the time on it, but it's going to be like, you know, $350 or something like that. So you get a flight, you get alcohol, and you get a massage at the same time. We're getting really nice. Look how it automatically brings it up over here. Isn't that great? So we're going to go back to the 60. I'm going to click it in there. Now, here is the rub of what is going on, and this is where lookups come in. If I go back over here to this and I type in here 5 and I come over here, this cost over here, and then we go back over here to wherever the, let me see, the cost, the widget. Oh, I didn't have a widget. Let me go to the, oh, there it is right there, the widget. See that number right there and that number right there? If I change on one side, watch down there at the bottom, okay? It changes. The relational links in the FileMaker system, this is the defining element. Relational links in the FileMaker system are real time. There's some cases where they're not real time. It doesn't matter. It's way over our pay grade today on this conversation. But they're essentially, all these links are real time. The problem is that so it means that if you change this down the road, Carol takes a balloon ride, and then a year later, say a year later or 6 months later, Ken changes the prices on the balloons, on the balloon ride. And then at the end of the year, to do his taxes, Ken prints out all his invoices, gives them to his accountant, says, hey, I have no idea how to do my taxes. I need some help. So here's all the invoices I made that were paid. Well, if with the design of the current system as it is, if Ken changes the price, he's likely to change the actual invoice in real time. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's kind of hard to understand that. The issue is that if you change it here, it changes over here in real time. You really don't want to do that. You don't want a situation where you have a live link to the product database. If you have a live link to the product database on your invoice, as the product prices change over here, if you change the product price, it changes the invoices retroactively. Okay, and the invoice is a deal that Carol made with Ken for a balloon ride for 60 minutes, and it was, say, February 21st of 2022. Ken the prices of hot air go up, and the fuel that he uses to make the hot air. So July, he raises prices. If you don't build the system correctly, it would change the price that Carol paid. So from your perspective, this could be bad because you're going to report to the IRS this is the money you made on the invoices that were paid, but you've changed prices which have changed your invoices retroactively, which means that you're going to report to the government that you collected more money than you did because the invoice is going to go up. So there are some transactions, there are moments in life where you want to bring the data across once and you want to lock it in. You want to bring it, I'm going to say it again, you want to bring it across once and lock it in. You could change it, but you have to want to explicitly change it. It doesn't change automatically behind your back. Does that make sense, right? Question launch. Yep. Okay. So Margaret, we don't have any super immediate questions.
No.
Yeah, you need to keep the historical prices. That's from Path Upa on Twitch. Yeah. So this is such an important thing. So you can decide that you can, like, if you wanted to have the product data over here live, right? Say I go over here and I'm in the line item right here and I want to see the cost and the price live. Well, since I have remember the relationship goes 3 across, right? So I'm going to real quick, I'm going to remind everyone of this. So if I'm on the invoice and I'm looking at line items, but because of the relationships can be kind of connected, they're all connected together, I can dip through and get the product price in real time. So I'm going to say cancel. I can change this to be the product cost. And some of you would do this. And then here is the product price from products. Okay. And this is the kind of, and so then here's this invoice. So you go ahead and, you get this going. We fill this out. So the balloon ride the cost was 65. Oh, hang on. Is it being, can I not change? Why is it not letting me change it? Or is it locked? What did I just do? I just did something really stupid. Invoice ID product. Oh, there's no relationship here. Stop. Let's go to Carol. I should be on Michael from Canada. Sorry, my bad. So here's our product right here. I'm just going to fill this in for the moment. So we got hot air balloon ride. We have the P1 right here. And so this is, notice this is the cost over here. So we bill out Michelle, sorry. We bill them $100 because it's quantity one, okay? And so I would adjust the calculation that would work correctly, okay? So you get this going and you're like, oh, that's great. But then he changed the price down here, right? I'm changing the price, right, to $200, okay? So here's 200. I changed the price. The invoice over here will update, right, at some point. Where did I do the wrong one? P1, am I not making sense here? Oh, I'm messing this up. That or I screwed it up. Products, what did I do wrong, folks? This is what you don't want to get yourself into this kind of mess. What you want to do is you want the data to look up from products into line items. The line items can be live, but the bringing the data across from products to line items is where you want to be a one-time copy and paste. You could actually even script it if you wanted to, but we're talking about doing it automatically with the relationship. Yeah. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go back and fix this. So I'm going to go back to line items. I'm going to set it to the product line item cost. I'm going to set this to line item price. Back to browser mode. So we have, so if we manually do it, let's just make sure we're all working here. Okay, so that's working. So if I want to create a new invoice for NJ in Australia, because NJ is killer, and I want to give him, NJ gets the premium experience, right? So let's go over here. We got a price on here. NJ is going to get the massage with Ken in the hot air balloon, right? But notice it didn't fill everything in. So how do we do that? What we're going to do is we're going to finish building the lookups now. So I'm going to go to File, Manage Database. We're in line items over here. We have the, if I zoom in, what we want to do is when I identify the product, I want to copy over the essential items, copy them and load them in here on a one-time basis only. One-time basis only. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to field definitions. I'm going to go to invoice line items. I'm going to go to the quantity won't come over because the quantity is what the person's buying. It's not really a canned thing, but the name would be. Let's get the name. So I'm going to click on the name. I'm going to come down here. Once again, I'm going to say option. So I'm going to try not to zoom too much, but I'm going to hit the option, auto enter option, lookup value. Okay, starting with the table line items, we want to look up value from the products, okay? And then what field do you want to look up, okay? And there's the product name. So this is all you have to do. So now it says lookup, okay? All right, so then you got the cost right here. I'm going to hit options right here. I'm going to go through the same process again, lookup value. Starting with, we want to start with line items. We're going to go get the value through the relationship, whatever it is, for the cost, okay? Hit OK. Hit OK, then do it one more time for the price. Lookup value, products, price. And so instead of it being a live link, it's a one-time kind of deal. Now, in order for this to work, you could manually type in right here P1 or P2, P3, and these would automatically fill in now, right? But since we have a pop-up list, we've automated even more. So if I do this right here, it should look up everything except the quantity. So 1, 2, 3, and it does. And then we would go over here and say, well, NJ is such a great guy. He's going to bring him and his two best friends. So Ken is going to massage both of them simultaneously in the hot air balloon. Okay? So it's getting kind of pricey. But what happens then down here is the essential thing is if the price changes in the future, right, it doesn't change this invoice because the invoice is a historical document. It must, for legal reasons, be historical. Now, say you want to come back in here, and this came up earlier today. Someone said the keyboard shortcut was broke. You're like, say like this invoice wasn't final. Like NJ got a quote, but I don't know if I really want to do it. I don't know what the dates are. So this invoice is kind of like preliminary, so it's not final. So then the price changes. Ken knows the price changed, so Ken could come over here and say, oh, well, I better like update the price. So if I select it again, it's going to cause a re-lookup. A re-lookup is once again, a one time where it's going to copy the data and paste it across. So if I do that, did I not save the change over here? Hello? Do I have to clear it and then put it back in? Oh, there it goes. It took a second for it to update. So it's pretty much instantaneously. So what you would probably do is you would probably say, well, that's really hard to remember that. So I want to train my staff to automatically do a lookup. So let's put a button here. I'm going to say button. I'm going to say the text on it should be look or refresh prices, because no one ever used the word lookup because that would be really kind of dumb. And then we want to put a graphic on it on the side. So we want some sort of like recycle graphic with some sort of like circular recycle thing on it. So you could refresh the prices. I don't see a refresh on here. I guess you could try to like, I would find a graphic and stick it in here. You guys were talking about icons the other day. But you come up with some sort of like process to refresh, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. Like that, refresh the price or something. Okay, so then we have to tell it to do a refresh. What we want to do is tell it to do a re-lookup. A re-lookup on for the moment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this button on a line item is what I wanted to do, because I don't want to have to get out of that mode.
We're going to do Lynn. What is the difference in using a lookup versus an auto-enter calc with do not replace existing value? I stopped using lookups when V7 came out.
You could use the calculation. I don't use the auto-enter calcs to really get related data. I mean, the biggest thing is you can do, the lookup is tied to the primary key on the parent side of where you're firing this from. So I'm going to run the re-lookup command here real quick. Let's see if I can perform a single script step, if it'll do it for me. Re-lookup. The re-lookup command won't run a calculation to refresh, right? So you would have to script it somehow to do that. And it's a Nick technique. You can choose to do it that way you want. This is, once again, and this is Lynn talking about this, but Lynn, you're kind of like an intermediate developer. You're a senior person. I mean, this is one of those things where this gets back into the world of FileMaker. There's always more than one way to skin a cat, shall we say? And I like my cat, but old term. There's more than one way in FileMaker to solve most problems. I could think of 4 ways of doing this demo, but the lookup is an important tool. In a lot of ways, it can be very, very fast, faster than other things in the FileMaker platform, because it's really built in. If you had to script this, it would be slower. In terms of scripting, like go to that, copy the values into a variable, then bring them over, then paste them back in. You could do it that way too. So we'll look up dialog on. I'm going to say dialog off. What we want to do is we say we want to target a field to re-lookup. So what we're trying to do is we're targeting the primary key. We don't want to change the primary key. We just want it to, any relationships that are based upon the primary key. The primary key is ID product foreign. Okay. And I'm hoping this will work. I have not tried this beforehand today, so it's one of those sort of things. So of course you get the button that shows up for every line, which is somewhat redundant and stupid, right? So that's this change. We say we change the price to $1,000, right? And so notice it doesn't update over here. If we say refresh price, it refreshed the price. Oh, I got P3s in both spots. Okay, so say this is a P1. Okay. So there we go. So yeah, so the refresh price allows you to do that. You could trip the calculation by changing a dependency. This gets back to some advanced Nick techniques. But if you have a calculation, you want the auto enter calc to refire, you're going to want to touch a dependent field. And Nick has spent a lot of time talking about that. Is this a different way of doing it?
Yeah, and then
So,
Ken
which
has
is
another.
one technique, and people ask me about the lookups all the time. So this is the essential idea, is that then if this invoice is final, then as we go into the future and this becomes 1100 or 1200 or 1300, it doesn't affect this over here. Now, if someone presses a refresh, they're going to change this invoice. So as part of your business process, you might have a status field over here, right? You could say a status of the invoice. And I'm going to say OK. And the field of status down here, you put the status at the top. This is kind of a really good one here as well. You put the status up here. I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go over here to the right pane layout mode, right panel in the right pane. I'm going to say I want it to be a pop-down menu again, right? And we already had one pop-down menu, but let's create a new one. There was the previous one. I'm going to edit the previous one real quick. I'm going to say this was products. Available products. I didn't really name this at the time. So now we have a value that's called available products. I'm going to create a new one called status of invoice, right? And this is going to be custom value. It's preliminary, it's active, which means it's in play, and then it's paid, right? Let's keep it super simple for now. So what we do is we go to browse mode. We see that we have a status right here. And by default, it should auto enter into preliminary, right? So we go in here, we'd say preliminary. Hopefully I spelled it the same way. Okay. So we create a new invoice. It's preliminary. It's already selected, so it matches. And then when it was done, it would be active, it'd be in progress, and then it was paid. So let's say we're going to do David. And then we will do questions after this. So we have David. David gets the 90-minute because he doesn't really need the massage. And then, but it's preliminary because David hasn't committed to it. Now we're going to commit to it. He's going to commit, so it becomes active. Okay. At some point in your business process, where you have to work through your workflow or your business process, it's going to become officially locked down. Normally, that's when it becomes paid. And so when it becomes paid, you don't want this refresh price to be hanging out over here, right? Because someone might press it. So what you're going to do is you're going to say this refresh price button is going to become invisible, right? You have to read this. The calculation will return hide object when the status equals paid, right? So we can all see that right there. So it's a hide condition on this button. We say OK. And it's right there. So I go back to browse mode. So if you have a preliminary invoice, it shows you that. But once it's locked down, you turn on some safeties to keep your staff from trashing the data. So very handy dandy. So let's deal with questions.
We don't really have questions. It's more of like an ongoing conversation, but I'll read it out loud anyway. Just kind of referring back to Lynn's conversation. I think they're discussing the different ways to skin a cat. Ken, so I would think that if you still run the risk of changing things to the auto enter versus a lookup.
Sure. Yes, you do.
And how would you refresh with an auto calc? That's the benefit of the lookup. At least that's my thinking. David's response to that was the problem I see with the lookup is that you can create for one TO only. And then NJ said, auto enter does not touch the calculation engine for what I understand. Lookup is easier to script relookups, and it has the next higher, next lower options if there is no exact match in the relationship.
Okay, NJ is absolutely correct on the back half of that, but the auto enter does touch the calculation engine. It has to, right, by definition, right? There's really three engines in the system that we deal with. There's the custom functions, which operate at very, very high speed. This goes back to Nick Hunter's 3 engines video. There's the calculation engine, which by default is right here. If we go into here, we just say it's an auto calculation. We're in the calculation engine here, right? This is the Draco calculation engine. And so it's going to execute that when it runs. The scripting is the third engine that's in the system. It's the slowest one, but it's the one that's the most verbose because you can precisely control what's going on when it controls. If I was building a system like this from scratch, I might be almost, sometimes we script this in BC8, or not BC8, starting point. We have it pop a list and then it creates the line items, and we do it with a script, so we have precise control, really precision control with a script, but it's slower. But if you're creating one line item that the user pressed by the created line item, then the performance of the script is inconsequential. It could be, it could be half the speed. Well, if it was a tenth of a millisecond or a millisecond or whatever it is, 100 milliseconds, then if it's 200 milliseconds to run the script, who gives a shit, right? I think if you're trying to do thousands and thousands, then it becomes this issue. But I love the idea of writing scripts because you can write a line of code and then you write an explanation of how it works, and it's very verbose, very verbose. I like that. It'd be the way that as soon as you start getting customers with a lot of complexity and a lot of very peculiar demands, they will say something that will prevent you from using an auto enter calculation or auto enter lookup, and then you have to have some logic in the script, and that's really where you have to dig deep on that, and that's where you'd have to do that.
And then
the auto enter calc in the managed database is the fastest. That is correct, except that if you can do it with custom functions, they're faster. But if you want to do an auto enter calc that calls a custom function, that's where you're going to get your fastest performance. Once again, that's not today's about beginners. We're not trying to maximize the speed on this. This is basic understanding. Yeah, go ahead.
2 comments, one on YouTube, one from Michael. You could also use a calculated value as an auto enter.
Right, that we're talking about the same thing. It's a calculated value in the auto enter. Once again, like I said, there's Michael. I haven't said anything to you here. Michael, you want to chime in here a little bit on this? I'm going to grab something to drink. But what are your thoughts as your videos kind of like, but whatever. That's good.
My video's going real bad.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on this? Because you train people on this. You do coaching, right? I mean, which way do you end up going with this, right? Because you can play it either way. In fact, like I said, I would be inclined just to do it with the scripts, because then it's precisely controlled. And we talk about this at great length in our paid video training about precise controls, right? Because beginners do it with this stuff, and then you get the intermediate people who move everything to scripts so they have precise control. Then as a very, very senior person, you start to move things out of scripts because you realize there's such a performance benefit, like with custom functions or something, right? We get to this NIC level. But NIC's level becomes important when you start moving millions of records around, right? So
yeah, just to echo what you're saying, it's good as a beginner to just get the thing to work. But as you move forward and you get better, and as a developer and you start getting to the more intermediate, advanced level, you definitely want to start thinking about performance and, like you said, the precision of your database. So I would definitely start moving towards the scripting.
Yeah, the precisions with the scripts. The unfortunate part is it's one of the more slower parts of the system. Lookups go back to FileMaker 1 and 2 and probably before that, but I didn't use FileMaker prior to Pro 1. In fact, I started a little bit with Pro 1, then Pro 2 came out, and I was playing with that. So that's how far I go back. So, yeah, it's a tricky situation. The lookups are there. They were designed to allow data to move between flat files. But the platform has got more sophisticated, more beta. And so you have a lot of options. I mean, once again, I like the option of writing a script that grabs the data, puts it in variables, brings it back, and then it loads it with precision into the necessary fields. One thing that NJ said that kind of comes up a little bit, and I remember solving this problem with a FedEx and UPS lookup tables once upon a time, and that is if you're trying to calculate the amount, so say like you're into shipping, right? So you're going to pay for shipping on a package. Well, like Amazon's increasing the cost of Prime and all this sort of stuff. But the cost of shipping goes up. So say we ship a widget to David here, right? The shipping will be XYZ today, and in 6 months or a year or 2 years, the price will be different, more probably, right? And so you want to lock that in as well. So the way shipping tables work with a lot of places is that you put your zip code in, and then you have their zip code, and then that's what they call a lookup table. Basically, it's a spreadsheet of things, and they don't list every zip code in the system. They say between this zip code and this zip code, there's some sort of math as to the way zip codes are applied geographically, right? What ends up happening is that you can end up looking for a zip code that is not there. And so if you load the lookup table, say there's in the United States, there's 5 digits, right? There's a lot of permutations of the zip codes in that area. But say you're trying to ship to my zip code 94534, and there's not nor 94534. What they'll frequently say is, look for the number, and if you don't see your number, then go to the next higher or lower number. And that's something that I think NJ or David pointed out, is that you can tell the lookup that if it doesn't get an exact match with the relationship, remember this old term, close, you say, well, I was really close in my answer. And they say close is only good with horseshoes and hand grenades. Well, it's also good with lookups. Most people don't understand that. So if you want to use a grenade action on your lookup, what you do is you go File, Manage, Database. You're going to go over to your line items. You're going to do your lookup. And you have this option in lookups. If I say options right here, I hit lookup, I'm going to zoom in right here. I remember seeing this kind of discovering this for myself in 91, 92, because I was solving the zip code problem. A lot of times there won't be an exact match. And so if you're trying to match by zip code and it doesn't match, you could tell it to roll to the next higher value up or the next value down, lower value, or next higher value. So if it can't find 94534, it goes up, it starts going up. And of course, that's numerically, if it's for alpha characters, FileMaker treats alpha characters the same way. So if you're looking for a letter A and there's no A, it would go to the letter B, right? So I don't know how crazy that could get, but it could be pretty interesting. And if there's no exact match, you can have it blank out and just use like something like a space in there or something like that. So it blanks out because a lot of times if you do have data in there and you try to do a new lookup and nothing's in there, it doesn't replace it. You need to kind of blank it out, and this is a way to enforce it blanking out. So there you go. It's a basic conversation, and it's important to understand it. And of course, people are like, well, you can solve it this way and this way and this way and this way. Well, when this first came out, it was the only way to solve it. And then since that time has come on, you could do auto enter calcs, which I don't use just because I think it's what you use, what you learn, right? And when I remember when variables first came out, because you use global fields as a variable. When they came out, I didn't even use variables for a year or two because I was like married to using it the old way, right? And then you have to kind of give up on your old mindset and embrace new things, right? And so it's kind of an important thing to be able to look at that objectively. Cool. All right. Well, any other questions we have? Michael Kerwan.
Mostly just comments.
Okay, so Michael, just keep in mind, I understand I know what Michael meant, auto enter calculation, but keep in mind the lookup is an auto enter. It's an auto enter lookup technically. So just if you're going to take the certification test, there's auto enter all these items and you should memorize them all. There's auto enter pre-canned data, auto enter calculated value, which is they test out of this. I don't think they test it all on lookup value. But it's still an essential thing that you should know. But they're all under the auto enter tab in FileMaker in field definition options. David Angel, proverb being nearly successful or accurate is not the same as being successful or accurate. Being close to achieving something does not provide any benefit. It doesn't matter what we only lost the game by 2 points. We still lost. Yeah. And close only counts in horseshoes. What's up for tomorrow, Margaret? We got, tomorrow we got monkey spread tomorrow. Monkey bread with Windows, with scanning documents and whatever stuff he's doing. So tomorrow should be fun. All right, that's it for now. I appreciate everyone. I'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
here who maybe a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!